1,000 years ago, Emperor Zhao Kuangyin said one sentence during his vow of unification. He said, "How can you let others sleep beside your bed?" This became the most famous Asian ruler in Chinese imperial culture. With your domain, no potential threat is allowed to exist, and he proved it with action.
In the 10th century, China was in the chaos of the 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms, a fractured land of rival states. Zhao Kuangyin seized power through a military coup and founded the Song Dynasty. But what he faced was an empire surrounded by independent regimes. He understood one thing clearly. As long as these independent states existed, the Song would never be safe. So he laid out a strategy: conquer the south first, then turn north. Pick off the weaker kingdoms one by one, unify the south, then concentrate all forces against the powerful enemy in the north. Southern Tang was the most important target on that list. The last ruler of Southern Tang was a man named Li Yu, one of the most talented poets in all of Chinese history. His famous line, "How much sorrow can one bear? Like a river of spring water, flowing endlessly to the east," is known to virtually every Chinese person alive. And Southern Tang had already submitted to the Song. It paid massive tribute every year, voluntarily gave up the imperial title, and called its ruler merely Lord of the State instead of Emperor. Li Yu had done everything a weak ruler could possibly do. This was clearly not an ambitious emperor, yet Zhao Kuangyin still sent his armies. Southern Tang dispatched envoys to plead, "We have shown no disrespect. Why are you attacking us?" Zhao Kuangyin gave a single reply: "How can you let others sleep beside your bed?" In his strategy, Southern Tang's attitude was irrelevant. What mattered was that Southern Tang still had its own land, its own army, its own court. As long as these things existed, they could become a variable at any moment. You don't rebel today. You might tomorrow. Your generation stays loyal. Your son might not. So the safest option was not to control you, but to make you disappear entirely. In 975, Song armies breached the walls of Jinling. Southern Tang fell. Li Yu was taken to the Song capital as a captive. He was reportedly poisoned to death. He had believed that humility could buy survival. But in the logic of empire, humility can never solve the problem of existence itself. A man who wrote the most beautiful verses in Chinese history died by the coldest political logic Chinese history ever produced. If this were just one emperor's personal thinking, it would be just a story, but the same logic appeared again and again across Chinese history. Centuries later, the Qing dynasty faced the exact same problem. In the early years of Emperor Kangshi's reign, 3 feudal lords, Wu Sangui, Shang Kexi, and Geng Jingzong, had conquered the southern half of China for the Qing and been granted fiefdoms as princes. They had their own armies, their own tax revenues, and their own territories, like 3 small kingdoms. On the surface, they were perfectly loyal, but the young Kangxi emperor's first major decision after taking personal control was to abolish the fiefdoms. His advisors warned him not to. His answer? Precisely because they will rebel sooner or later, we must act now. The revolt of the Three Feudatories lasted 8 years. It nearly drained the national treasury and cost countless lives. But Kangxi had to fight. In the end, he won. From that point on, the Qing dynasty never again allowed a feudal lord with independent military power, to exist. The price was enormous, but in the logic of empire, it was worth it. Two cases. One, a foreign kingdom destroyed. One, a domestic fiefdom dismantled. The logic is exactly the same. Regardless of what you have done, your independent existence itself is unacceptable. Why? Because in China's political tradition, there is a deeply rooted belief. There cannot be two suns in the sky, nor two rulers in one land. Power can only have one center. Any independent entity with power, no matter how small, how distant, how obedient, could theoretically become another center. And the existence of two centers means conflict is only a matter of time. So the most rational approach is not to wait for conflict to happen, but to eliminate the possibility before it arises, swallow it, dismantle it, or grind it down. This is not the logic of a tyrant. This is the self-preservation logic of a civilization built on unity. Understand this, and you understand the most important pattern in Chinese history. Why China is so obsessed with unification, and why every period of division eventually leads back to reunification. In China's traditional political worldview, division was never an acceptable long-term state. It was a temporary error, a problem that had to be fixed. And here, China and Europe are fundamentally different. In Europe, having neighbors was the norm. No single country had the power to absorb all the others, so the default was negotiation, alliance, and balance of power. But in China, after the Qin unified the six kingdoms, the idea that the world should be one became the default assumption. Unity was normal, division was abnormal. Europe's question was how to coexist with neighbors. China's question was how to make coexistence unnecessary. How can you let others sleep beside your bed? On the surface, it sounds like an arrogant remark. At its core, it is an institutional concept of security. Security is not the absence of threat. Security is the absence of any possibility. Threat. A neighboring state paying you tribute, that is no threat. But that state continuing to exist as an independent political entity, that is the possibility of threat. In China's political logic, as long as the possibility exists, it must be eliminated.
This saying has survived for over 1,000 years, not because it was cruel, but because it was true. It described something most civilizations avoid saying out loud. The safest neighbor is no neighbor at all.
When Zhao Kuangyin spoke those words, Li Yu was in Southern Tang, writing poetry. He had not provoked. He had not resisted. He had shown no hostility. He had lowered himself as far as anyone could. But none of that mattered. In the logic of beside your bed, you don't need to do anything wrong. You just need to be there. This saying has endured for over 1,000 years, not because it is arrogant, but because it is precise. It captures the deepest attitude in Chinese political culture toward coexistence. The greatest security is not having a loyal neighbor. It is having no neighbor at all. The most stable order is not peaceful coexistence. It is having only one center. The deepest political instinct in Chinese history was never about how to coexist. It was about how to make coexistence no longer necessary.